we decided to dedicate such a webinar in order to provide more details on this nature restoration regulation, as we don't call it law anymore. To do so, as Renaud mentioned, we will have a quick overview explaining what are the key obligations, the key deadline, and definitely you will see we will be quite busy if we follow the timeline as planned by this regulation. In order to make it more tangible, because we don't start from scratch, definitely not in the Mediterranean region. We will have case studies and tangible testimonies from Italy, Seoul, and from France, from Sylvain. And we will wrap up and we will share as well additional information on what MedPAN will do in order to keep on supporting the MPA community in the Mediterranean region in order to keep on working on ecological restoration. Next, please. So as you know, our region is definitely a very important but fragile biodiversity hotspot. We have a high species diversity, we have particularly a very high endemism, and we have a unique ecological feature, and this make it as a critical ecosystem, a regional one, acknowledged at the international level, but we have all to tackle the fragility, the vulnerability of our Mediterranean marine and coastal ecosystem. Next, please. As you can see on this slide, within our sea, we are facing very important pressure and threats on our ecosystem. We have a high population density. We have a very busy maritime traffic. But as you know, the Mediterranean region is also known to be a climate hotspot. As in our region, the warming is 20 faster than the global average in the world. In addition, our Mediterranean Sea has to tackle with the important pollution and extractive activities. Next one. So this is, you can click again. This is why definitely we have as well, in addition to conservation, we have to implement active in addition to the passive restoration. And this is why we do thought that explaining in depth and with more detail what this new EU regulation entails for and what are the obligations. You will understand quickly that the obligations are targeting first the European member states, but nevertheless, at the very end, they are the front line. The MPA managers and stakeholders will have actually to contribute to the implementation of the EU restoration regulation. So this regulation entered into force in 2024. At that time, it was called EU Nature Restoration Law, and the European Commission decided now to call it Nature Restoration Regulation. So don't be confused. Now the official title and name is Nature Restoration Regulation. So why is that? It's because it's a compulsory and obligatory policy, European policy, with a direct obligation for the member states. And nevertheless, marine protected area managers have a key role for its implementation. So this is why we wanted to dedicate a special effort to explain what is this new policy development. The first one, as Renaud mentioned, on this topic of restoration at the European level, even though the European Commission funded already for several decades restoration activities, but now we have a dedicated policy framework that is compulsory for all member states. Next one. So we, in order to explain it, as you saw, we have already circulated, disclosed a dedicated policy, let's say policy note, call it, and we wanted to make it user-friendly note in order to articulate the content of this education. That is very, very complicated. And you can see the document and the link below. It's quite a complicated one. I'm a lawyer by training, and I can tell you that it was not easy to read at all. So this is why we thought it would be very useful to have such a document, and you can find it on our website, in order to capture the key obligation and the key deadline. Next one, please. So let's jump into the content of this nature restoration regulation. So the purpose, as it is mentioned in its text, is to reverse the ecosystem degradation, to restore biodiversity, and to promote sustainable practices. And the scope is to have a comprehensive restoration beyond protection alone. So as you can understand, definitely marine protected areas have a key role, but the law is not only targeting a restoration within MPA, it goes as well beyond MPAs. And the relevance for MPAs, it's a legal and binding framework for all the work you are doing as manager and stakeholders when it comes to restoration. So our dear colleague Noé shared the link in the chat if you want to directly access to our brief note on the nature restoration regulation. Next one. So the objective, and we start to talk about quantitative target. The target adopted within this regulation is to restore 30% of degraded ecosystem by 2030. So quite an ambitious one. And full restoration by 2050. So you can sense already the importance of work, knowing the states of our different coastal and marine ecosystem. So this is why it was important to remind this for everyone, and to be ready actually to take any opportunity to tackle and to undertake restoration works. So the objective is to support biodiversity enhancements, to rebuild population of key species, to protect ecological interaction, and to restore natural processes. In addition, this regulation has definitely as well, I would say, an economic understanding. And this is why this regulation promotes sustainable practices in sectors like fisheries, tourism, and agriculture. In addition, in order to have an integrated and holistic approach, this regulation mentions as well the importance of climate resilience of our ecosystem and the aim to enhance ecosystem ability to withstand and adapt to climate change impact. As you can understand, this regulation is actually supporting definitely the EU biodiversity strategy and its different goals, but as well the European Green Deal objectives, in addition to other important European policies when it comes to sustainable fisheries and climate adaptation. Next one, please. You can click another, yeah. So in order to give you a clear understanding of the key deadline and the key activities, we sum up in the note you can find in our website the key deadline. So already be aware that in 2026, the member states have to submit a draft of the National Restoration Plan in order to implement and to comply with this nature restoration regulation. So actually, it's next door, it's tomorrow, 2026. And this work has to be finalized by 2027. So be aware that this work should have started already, and the member states should organize meetings, consultation, in order to involve the stakeholders. This is a key point as well of this regulation. The participation, the involvement of stakeholders is critical in order to make sure that everybody is on board. By 2028, actually, the member states have to start the important reporting work. So you see, the deadline are pretty close. And as I mentioned already, the objective in 2030 is already to restore 30% of damaged habitat. And the list of the habitat is found in Annex 2 of the regulation, and to assess the condition of 90% of the habitat as well, listed in this regulation, and to restore as well, and sometimes we tend to forget, but to restore as well 30% of degraded or non-existent marine habitats. So you can see the regulation is quite ambitious, quite demanding. So be ready to be part of the national discussion regulation around both the preparation of the National Restoration Plan, but as well the progress report, and to discuss very openly and in a very hands-on way about how to achieve these very ambitious targets. Next one, because it's not only this. In terms of deadlines and targets, the member states have to submit in 2032 a simplified strategic version of the National Restoration Plan. So they have to prepare the plan, they have to start sorry, the reporting work, but in 2032, they have to actually capture, to articulate how they will do this in a strategic version of the National Restoration Plan. And in order to scale up and to enhance the restoration effort by 2040, actually the objective is to restore 60% of damaged habitat, 60% of degraded or non-existent marine habitat, and to restore two-thirds of the area that are not in good condition. So you see, we go crescendo when it comes to implementing restoration and reaching ambitious targets. Next one, and this will be the final deadlines. In 2042, the member states will have to submit an updated strategic version of the National Restoration Plan, because those plans will be lively documents. They have to be monitored, they have to be updated. So by 2042, member states will have to update the strategic version of the National Restoration Plan. And by 2050, as we mentioned, the member states should restore 90% of damaged habitat, 90% of degraded marine habitats, and full restoration of non-existent habitat, so that we can reach a good environmental status. So you can sense here the level of ambition of this European regulation. This is why your participation, your contribution to any meetings, national consultation is key in order to make sure that it will happen in tangible way, and you have your say actually in the development, in the elaboration of the national restoration plan. Next one. I think we will now move to another part of the presentation, and I will hand over to my colleagues, Patricia and maybe Maria. Actually, we work on this, both this webinar and the policy note you will find on our website. We are colleagues from Oceanogamy, so this is why we have a several voice presentation. The mic is yours, Patricia, please.
Thank you very much, Carol, for the introduction, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today on behalf of Oceanogamy. we're going to explore together what the EU nature restoration regulation means in practice for marine protected area managers. As you know, this work, as Carol mentioned, has been done along with Maria Jimenez, who is also here. She's an environmental lawyer from oceanography and researcher at the University of Murcia. So I will continue now with the legal requirements and provisions. The Nature Restoration Regulation establishes a clear legal obligation for EU member states to develop and implement national restoration plans. These plans must include specific strategies, measurable targets, and timelines for restoring ecosystems across land and sea. Importantly, these plans are not optional, so they are bringing the subject to compliance mechanisms. For us working in the Mediterranean, this means that national authorities will have to define restoration priorities, and MPAs will play a key role delivering those targets. The regulation also requires monitoring and reporting to ensure transparency and accountability. And it's essential that MPA managers are informed and involved in national planning processes. Because what happens is at your site level will directly contribute to whether the restoration goals are met at the national or and EU levels. So if you can go next, I will briefly explain these obligations on the EU member states. So under the Nature Restoration Regulation, EU member states have several key obligations. So these are the four ones listed. First, they must develop comprehensive national restoration plans with clear strategies, measurable targets, as I was mentioning, and defined timelines for restoring the great ecosystems. These plans must reflect the specific pressures and priorities for each region. And second, we have the member states are required to monitor and report on their progress at regular intervals, ensuring transparency and accountability at the UA level. Importantly, for us in the Mediterranean, national plans must be tailored to address high pressure areas like those found in many of our MPAs. Finally, the member states are expected to ensure stakeholder engagement involving local communities, scientists, NGOs, practitioners in both the planning and implementation phases. This means that those of us working on the ground should have a voice on how these plans are shaped and delivered. So what does really the Nature Restoration Regulation entails for MPA managers? That's as an MPA manager or practitioner, first you need to set science-based measurable restoration goals. This can be a new challenge if your MPA management plan doesn't yet include restoration. So, and second, adaptive management is key, meaning that your approach evolves as new data comes in. And third, stakeholder engagement it should be included, of course. Engaging the community, building legitimacy, and gathering traditional knowledge and increasing, yes, the success. Finally, reporting is part of what should be done. And then, so you need to take this into account and feeding with broader monitoring and compliance system for the national and EU-wide outcomes. Then, next, please. Thank you. So, what the Nature Restoration Regulation entails for MPA management plans and governance beyond the site level actions, the Nature Restoration Regulation has implications for how you structure and your entire management plan. So this is not just about listing restoration actions, it's about integrating them into your governance framework. And this includes setting targets tailored to local ecosystems, adjusting methods for adaptive management, working with the stakeholders across sectors, ensuring long-term monitoring mechanisms are in place. And this nature restoration regulation essentially pushes toward a more strategic and participatory governance models. Then next, please. How do we set these effective restoration targets? These targets need to be meaningful and feasible. So that means that they must reflect the ecological characteristics of your area. And for instance, if your site includes degraded Posidonia, meadows, or coralligenous reefs, your targets should reflect the restoration of those habitats specifically. Local biodiversity data, historical trends, pressure assessments are inputs, no, that for setting realistic and impactful targets. There is where you should, of course, collaborate with researchers and ecological monitoring teams to do the proper monitoring. Then, please, next. Thank you. Okay. So the good news is that there are many resources nowadays available, and as Carol was mentioning, we are working also for doing guidelines. We are also organizing a workshop and webinar and in-person workshop and training. So all this, it is a lot of materials available. And there are guidelines for compliance, data collection templates, platforms of data sharing, etc. We can share later with you all these tools and materials. No? Yeah, next, please. Yes, thank you. So monitoring and reporting are essential pillars, no, for the nature restoration regulation. And as MPA managers, we are expected to contribute high quality data to national restoration efforts. And that starts with how we collect the information on the ground. This slide highlights two important aspects. First, we need to use a range of data collection techniques, including remote sensing, field service, and other in situ methods to assess ecosystem health, track process, and detect the changes. And secondly, this data must be reliable, standardized, and regularly reported to national authorities to support compliance and transparency. So then it's about improving over time also the monitoring, and then to show the impact that is creating the projects. Then please next. Then I will yes, talk about this. Anticipate updates on the nature restoration regulation is not a fixed document. It will evolve based on the implementation experiences and the scientific advantages and policy feedback. So one key area that we expect updates in this is digitalization. So the integration of real-time data platforms, remote monitoring systems, and user-friendly dashboards that can simplify compliance and engage stakeholders. Another area is the refinement of success metrics from the just surface area to indicators that reflect ecosystem function, connectivity, and resilience. These updates mean that MPA managers will need to remain adaptive and aligning their strategies and reporting tools with these evolving requirements. Here, I wanted just to introduce, I don't want to talk in detail these case studies because we already have case studies presented by the MPA managers that we will have today, these two case studies. But I just wanted to highlight these differences between the different restoration approaches, and it depends on your case. You can apply this active restoration. This is an example with Patella ferruginea. Active restoration of the species. So there is this is the case of La Galite archipelago, and the focus is Patella ferruginea, as you know, is a critical endangered limpet. And then the restoration here involves translocating individuals to suitable areas and managing their reintroduction to boost population recovery. And then this kind of species-focused work is necessary when natural recovery isn't happening on its own, and then either because population is too small, which is also the case, or the ecological conditions need help. Active restoration, then it's often a resource intensive, but it can be essential for species survival. And then the next one, it will be an example of passive restoration. MPA is already, marine protected area is passive restoration or ecological buoys to avoid anchoring in the Posidonia. And this is an example in Kokova Bay in Turkey. And then here, there is the marine protected area where they have established no-take zones, and then they have strength fisheries management. So these governance measures reduce human impact and allow ecosystems like seagrass meadows to regenerate. So this is very powerful, and shows how a strong management without this physical intervention that you have on the active restoration can lead to ecological recovery, especially when ecosystems still has this natural resilience. And finally, the combined one, you can say, is the hybrid one, and case study for Cross National Park. And then would you combine both strategies, no? So this I will say is could be the case of some of the marine protected areas, no? These hybrid strategies are particularly useful in BC MPAs where multiple pressures exist, and where there is this need for combining both strategies. So I will stop here, and I will introduce now the case studies. Then please, can you go to the next slide? Now we have, yes, we are very pleased to have these two speakers who are directly involved in turning this regulation into action in their respective MPS. So we look forward to hear from them now. And first we will hear from Saul Chiriaco from Miramare MPA in Italy. And Saul will share how his team has applied hybrid restoration techniques targeting Cystoceira, Cimodosia nodosa, and Pinna nobilis, and how they have been mobilized funding, including Italian. Well, I will not tell many details. He will explain. And then we will go to later to France with Sylvain Bluet, Deputy Director from the Côte Agatuas MPA, who will present the ecological restoration efforts, challenge, and lessons of learn, particularly in the algal forest. And yes, so the seat is yours. If you want to start already, Saul, are you there?
Yes, more or less I'm ready.
Okay.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, MedPAN, and of course all the organizer for the invitation. It's really very pleasure for us to be here because we consider this presentation, this moment, this webinar, a key moment to share our history in restoration activities. Of course, we cannot be very long in the description, but I will go through the experience that we started since more than 15 years ago in the restoration activities. I'm quite confident that you will permit me to do a small advertise. Next one, please. A small advertise on the on Miramare MPA, even if I'm quite sure that all of you knows very well we started in 1973. This is not only to show that we are proud of our history, but only to share with you two really relevant sliding doors for Miramare MPA. The first one is in 2010, when together with the ministry and WWF, we put in place the standard management plan, standard adaptive management plan for all the marine protected areas in Italy. This was really, in my opinion, the first great sliding door to be more effective, because we gave to the ministry all the instruments, all the tools to evaluate our management plan, our action, our strategy, and of course, the opportunity to evaluate how we spent the money that they can give us to manage the conservation objectives. The second slide indoors is in 2014 when we enlarged and updated the MAB, so Man and Biosphere UNESCO reserve, which since 1970 was only 30 hectares and became in 2014 3,000 hectares. This is our step to enlarge the borders of our marine MPA, which is really, the smallest marine or one of the smallest marine protected areas in Italy. And we realized during the years that size is relevant for conservation, in our opinion. But we didn't want to have too many constraints in the management. So we decided to use the MAB instrument, the MAB tools, to enlarge the marine protected areas. And with such action, we started our path to the OESCM strategy for Miramare, because in our opinion there is no need to have more than 30 hectares core area. We have to have small, very small core area like Miramare, but we have to influence all the citizen region that surrounds the marine protected areas. And so this kind of protection, which is very low, is, in our opinion, the right tool to involve citizens and practitioners and all the also businessmen and decision makers that stay in a territory locally. And finally, I signed it in 2021. We had our revision for ASPIM, and so next year we will be prepared for the next revision on 2026. Please go on next one. So what is our lesson learned for restoration actions in Miramare MPA? We understood very well that there are at least three pillars that we have to follow. The first one is the prerequisite. We cannot go to restore anything if the causes of the disappearance or deterioration have not been removed. This seems to be a very silly sentence because it appears clear to practitioners, but considering the budget constraints of marine protected areas, it is very common to follow the money instead to follow the conservation. And so the idea is to put in place some restoration actions only to do the works and to receive the money to do some conservation actions. This is not the right way to manage the marine protected areas. The first goal have to be the restoration. So the purpose is to reverse the ecosystem degradation, to restore the biodiversity. We have to focus on our biodiversity target firstly, and then if they are degraded, go further with the restoration actions. Of course, the scope must to go beyond the protection alone with structured measurable goals. Why we say measured? Because otherwise, if you cannot measure the goals, you cannot be really effective. You cannot demonstrate to be effective in your management. So the idea is to put every time numbers and kilometers and what else to understand very well that the restoration actions is effective. Next one, please. Of course, when we talk about the restoration with the general public, they ask us, but if you are a protected areas, if you work since 1973, is there really needs of restoration measures? Is this because your management is not effective? And so we have to answer clearly to people and also to scientists if needed. Yes, it is needed because sometimes the causes of degradation are prior to management decision. Because we are not hermetically sealed inside marine protected areas, we receive threats also from outside marine protected areas. One example for everything is the climate change. We cannot manage to switch off the heating of the sea. And last but not least, because some of threats are really independent of management, okay? And of course, there are a lot of other causes, but we have not time enough now to go in details, but we can discuss during the question and answer time if you are interested in. Next one, please. We also understood very well that you probably know that marine protected areas in Italy don't have employees. So the management body for Miramare is WWF, don't have employees directly from the ministry. So one of the main objective is to have strong partnership with other researchers, university, also private company that can be helpful in the process of restoration of habitats. Otherwise, we cannot go on. The second one is collaboration among the protected areas. We have the MedPAN here, so we know very well the role of the networking. We have big network and small network. We have to understand the effectiveness of the different level of networking among different MPA. And I consider this one of the main relevant things that we have to develop a lot. Then, of course, we have to lobby, with the policy and decision makers because of the constraint of money and of the bureaucracy of the management of the protected areas at different level. And finally, I consider that we have to be attractive also with innovative companies or practitioners that can give us new opportunities or develop something new for the protected areas. I'm talking with 3D printing, but also with engineers, environmental engineers that can help us to build a new management, more sustainable and more innovative. Next one, please. So the first example I can show you is a very ancient experiment we do with restoration of Fucus virsoides. This is an endemic species in the Gulf of Trieste. It was quite common in the northern Adriatic Sea from Croatia to Veneto Lagoon, but now since 10 years or more, it is in great issue. And we started in 2015 with the first experiment with the University of Trieste of restoration. You can see on the left the whole system for the restoration, because also the restoration, as I told you, need to be developed with a new instrument. So we go forward from the old one to the new device. They are built with a small unit, and you can see in the small image in the bottom the first phase of restoration of these brown algae in Miramare. Next one, please. Another problem are related to our Cystoseira forest. We started in 2017 writing a project, a life project, funded by Natura 2000 life program that managed the restoration of Cystoseira habitats in two different marine protected areas, Miramare and the park of Cinque Terre in Ligurian Sea. The problem is that we have to understand that after the impact, we have to put in place a new restoration activity. And in Miramare in 2022, when we finished this first life project, we transplant in 26 zone 50 tiles with Cystoseira barbata new devices. Next one, please. The good experience in Cystoseira made us lucky And we applied for another life project in 4 different MPA. The new project is Reforest. It is already financed by life program, and it is more ambitious than Miramare and Cinque Terre from the first one, because the new idea is that we have to upscale. We have to go over the scientific experiment of restoration. We have to go in place in field, and we have to restore as many kilometers as we can. And so the new goals was 14 kilometers of coastline to be restored in 4 marine protected areas. The first one is in Gyros in Greece. Then we have Cilento in Campania region in Italy. And then we have Bergeggi in Ligurian Sea and Penisola del Sinis Mal di Ventre in Sardinia. These are our 4 new challenges. We will work on 2 different habitats, the intertidal one with intertidal species Amentacea, and the subtidal habitats, so with other species of Cystoseira sensulatum. And we will work on 3 different, we are working on 3 different species. Next one. The other challenge, big challenge, has been Life Pinna project. I'm very proud to say that this project starts from a MedPAN finance project, a small one, only 20,000 euros to develop a restoration program for the Gulf of Trieste, in a period when we were convinced that we were the part safe from the Aplosporidium and the pathogens mass mortality events. This was not true. And so after the MedPAN project Restore Fund, we started with this new ambitious program, Life Pinna project. You see the partnership is very interesting. There are inside private company, but 2 big university and research institute from Slovenia, and aquarium, and regional agency for environmental management from Ligurian. So it is a very large and comprehensive partnership. Next one. But what about, again, the numbers of this restoration, what we have achieved? We produced several new protocols for the management in aquarium of Pinna nobilis, protocols for transplantation, for transport of Pinna nobilis, juveniles and big one. We have translocated more than 100 individuals in several marine protected areas. The 3 one in which we worked were Bergeggi, Capomortola, and Miramare. And we achieved our best goal, which was the reproduction in captivity. And we had larvae of 150 micron, which was the first event in Mediterranean Sea. Unfortunately, they didn't settle, and we will try to do it again in the follow-up of the project. We will finish the project on this week in Ligurian Sea. Next one, please. Thanks to the PNRR project, so the plan for resilience in Italy, we also developed several projects as MPA and as private managers. They targeted Cimodocea nodosa, so a seagrass, which is very common in the Adriatic Sea, and on Cystoseira sensulatum. What was the idea? The idea was to develop new materials and devices with 3D printing for marine restoration with 3 different sites. The first one is the Northern Adriatic Sea, where we lie. The second one is Ligurian Sea, and one is the Como Lake in Italy. Next one, please. Let me mention other measures from the National Plan for Resilience that gave to the marine protected areas new instruments to monitor the conservation status of marine protected areas. This is one of the most interesting financing opportunity for us. The project is DigitUp, is inside the National Plan for Resilience. Next one, please. And the objectives is, next one. Okay. Is to develop, to give the opportunity to marine protected areas to be autonomous in developing a monitoring and surveillance control system. So we have a new drone with a multi-sensor inside. We have a platform for the surveillance of intrusion in marine protected areas. We have only for the HASPEM a new network for in situ monitoring with proximity sensor wireless, and we will finish our monitoring activities and put all the data, and this is relevant for the national restoration regulation. All the data that we collect with these instruments will be put in the National Biodiversity Network portal, so will be available at the national level in the same way for all the marine protected areas to the ministry and to all the policymakers. So this will be, in my opinion, one of the instruments that will be implemented during the next years. Of course, we have 31 operational monitoring plans, one for each marine protected areas, and according to the plan from ISPRA, we had the training to the monitor, to the not employees, to the person involved in managing protected areas. All the skills were transferred from ISPRA to the MPA managers. Next one, please. The last one I present you is the MER PNRR project. This is really very interesting. The budget is 400 million euros from 22 to 26. Next one, please. And the main action I mentioned, there are several actions inside this financing, but the one I mentioned are related to directly to marine protected areas, and are the restoration of 3 different habitats, Posidonia, Coralligenous, and Schistoseira. And the most relevant things, in my opinion, is that the restoration actions are not in the core area, so they are not in the A zone, but they necessarily have to be conducted at least in the B zone. So this is not related only to the most relevant conservation area of the marine protected areas. And then the installation of 91 mooring fields. This is a passive restoration action, and the idea is to use 1,500 buoys for protect in an indirect way all the habitats surrounding marine protected areas. Next one, please. Thank you. Of course, I'm remaining here for the question and answers if you need it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saul, for this very practical, hands-on and tangible testimonies. Very valuable. I think we can hand over to our next speaker, Sylvain Blouet, who will share his experience, not in Italy, but in France, and the experience of the MPA of the Côte d'Agatois. Sylvain, the floor is yours.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm here today to talk to you about a restoration project in your marine protected area, the Schistoseira restoration project. They are brown algae to form through underwater forest. They are very important for biodiversity, but they have almost disappeared from your coastline. In this presentation, we will explain why they are important, what happened to them, and what we are doing to bring them back. Next slide, please. Okay. The Côte d'Agatois Marine Protected Area is a Natura 2000 site covering more than 6,000 hectares. It's managed by the municipality of Agde. Along your coastline, we have mass tourism, small professional fishermen, dive center, recreational fishermen, and numerous water sport activities. All these activities are positive for the town economy, but they also put pressure on the marine environment. In your marine protected area, we have implemented numerous restoration actions, included passive restoration measures such as a 300-hectare street protection zone or no onshoring zone, and active restoration effort on rocky habitat with a measure to reduce dive pressure on the coralligenous habitat. They also have an ecological restoration planning document for your marine protect area. But today I will focus on the restoration of Cystothera alga started in 2019. Next slide. Okay. Cystothera is what we call a keystone species. It's a structure underwater ecosystem. It plays the same role at terrestrial forest. It provides shelter from small invertebrates and serves as a nursery for many fish species. But in the 20th century, it declined significantly due to the urbanization, pollution, overgrazing, but sea erosion, sea warning, and storm. In Agde, two species, Ericaria mediterranea and Cystothera barbata, gradually disappeared. We haven't seen them here since 1982. Today, the main local pressure remains water quality, tourism, and port activity. Slide next. Okay. Your main objective is to restore a key habitat for shallow rocky seabed. We also want to contribute to the European biodiversity strategy. Another objective is to support natural recolonization, and the dispersal of species is very limited. Finally, we want to restore the ecological heritage of Agatua coastline, restoring what was destroyed in the past. Next. First step. To begin, we consult old inventory to find out where these algae used to grow along your coastline. For me, it's an essential prerequisite before starting any project. In 2019, we conduct a preliminary inventory and mapping to identify potential restoration sites. For Mediterranean, you use a source site near Leucate and Cystothera barbata, the two lagoons. Next. Method for Ericaria mediterranea. The first step was to identify fertile individual. We collect fertile shoot. Then we prepare the rocks at the restoration site. We clean the next, sorry. Okay. Then we prepare the rocks to the restoration site. We clean area of approximately 50 square centimeters by scraping the surface. Then we drilling hole and insert special ring with adhesive. Finally, we secure the shoot with plastic tied to allow them to attach, and then wait for natural recolonization to occur. Next slide. Okay. Donc for Cystothera barbata, okay. The donor site is two lagoons, okay, near to the site recipient. The method was different. We collect the fertile individual with a substrate, that is a rock, and which they were growing. The next. No, sorry, before. Sorry. and we replant them directly on the restoration site. This method was somewhat more complex, but it was too important to test it. Next. The result. Okay. The results were very different for the two species. For Ericaria mediterranea, the success rate was very high. 19% of the site showed signs of recolonization, and in most cases, the algae spread. But 2025, the total area covered will be approximately 58 square meters. For Cystothera barbata, unfortunately, we didn't not achieve any success. The mortality rate was very high, and we do not yet know the exact cause. Okay? And the last slide. This result also used to conclude that the restoration of is possible and successful. We can envision a large-scale development along the entire coastline of MPA. For Cystothera barbata, we will continue your experiment. We also plan to test another species like Zosteroides on the artificial reef. In the future, we will continue to monitoring for 10 years, conduct genetic analysis, and observe the benthic community. Your main objective is to make the Agatua coastline and Mediterranean reference for restoration like Cystothera.
Thank you so much, Sylvain, for this valuable testimony and the clear explanation and your insight, and as well the honesty when it comes to success and failure. It's important as well to be clear that restoration is not an easy task, and we have to invest a lot of time, energy, and money. And sometimes, unfortunately, we don't achieve the results. It's something that we have to keep in mind and to bear in mind, particularly in the contribution to the National Restoration Plan. I will hand over back to my colleague, Patricia, to wrap up the lesson learned from restoration project, and then we will move to a more interactive session of question and answer. Thank you again for your testimony, Sol and Sylvain. It's very practical and give a clear understanding of what we talk about when it comes to restoration.
Thank you very much for presenting these case studies. So now wrapping up a bit with the case studies that are presented and the ones that our two MPA managers presented. Across the different restoration projects that we have seen, active, passive, and hybrid, some clear lessons learned have emerged. And first, the importance of a stakeholder collaboration, I will say, involving institutions, users, and local communities, and this helps for in both case studies and through partnerships with universities, municipalities, NGOs. And secondly, it's essential to set these clear and measurable goals. Both MPAs have defined specific targets, such as restoring Cystothera, and this makes monitoring more meaningful and help to adapt strategies over time. Then next, yes, please, thank you. So effective restoration strategies not only depend on the ecological data, but also on the local context. So in the case of Cotaguadas, restoration planning was informed by historical records, and this helped to identify donor and recipient sites for algal recovery. And at Miramari, these long-term ecological monitoring and scientific partnerships did guide the development of these hybrid methods. then in this case, restoration is most effective. We can see that it's most effective when you have this grounded in place based knowledge and then support by the local capacity to implement it over time. Next, it's important to look forward, and then we expect this to have digital technologies that play an increasingly central role, from drone monitoring, satellite imagery to real-time data platforms. And Miramare show also these 3D printed materials and being tested to support marine restoration, and at exploring how to refine and scale transport protocols. So these examples highlight how the growing need is to combine innovation with the field experience. So collaborative platforms, as we mentioned, like MedPAN, are essential for sharing these tools and lessons in the Mediterranean, where many MPAs face similar pressures, so we can share our lessons learned and techniques. This kind of regional cooperation is critical for advancing and in our restoration strategies. Now it's time for questions and discussion, and I would like also to hear if any of you are already working on restoration aligned with the nature restoration regulation. If which barriers are you facing, and what kind of support tools are useful for you? It would be great to have this space, and also if you have questions from the case studies. You can raise your hand or write in the chat, please, the questions.
Thank you, Patricia. Yes, please feel free to ask any question, either on the regulation itself or on the case studies, the 10 testimonies shared by Saul and Sylvain. It's your webinar, so don't be shy. Ask any question. You can take the floor or write it directly into the chat. You can use the function comment and raise the hand if you want to take the floor. Feel free.
May I start with a question to Sylvain?
Yes, please, Saul, please.
Waiting for our guests. Sylvain, did you plan for the marine protected areas to do other experiments?
Hello, this is Chema from Qualitas AI and Science. Can you hear me?
Yes, please, Sema. Saul was speaking, then we will take your question or your comment after, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
Thank you so much.
Only a brief question for Sylvain. If after the unsuccessful Barbata restoration, did you plan to do some new experiments on Barbata, or if you abandoned completely that species?
Now we don't have a new protocol for Barbata. We don't have a good idea what we don't have success with the restoration. Probably we try the same protocol, but in another site. Okay, a different site. The site quite we don't have more activity, more hydrodynamism. Okay, probably because this species it's a preferium for this type of site for implement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvain. Sema, the floor is yours, please. You can open your camera if you want also. Your mic is, yes, thank you.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you so much for your time and all this knowledge you're sharing with all of us. I'm Tim. I'm helping an MPA here in Spain develop some tools, like digital tools, actually to protect their MPA in Catalonia, Spain. And I was wondering if there is any technology already developed for these kind of MPAs. We have talked about the importance of these tools, that this implementation of new tools is in mind, for the future and to protect these MPAs with technology and so on. Do we have something developed? Do we have something so that we can use right now for protecting these MPAs and protected areas, marine or not marine? That's my question.
So I guess you would like to have first an answer from Saul and Sylvain, from other MPA managers, and then I can talk about potential support to develop tools.
If I can say something, yeah, I think that for protection, the tool that I can mention is the one developed by our ministry, which is the analysis of remote sensing data and ice data coming from the satellite to verify the intrusion in marine protected areas. This is a very effective instrument, even if it is not perfect. As usual, we have to tune the identification and what to do if some intrusion occurs, because we don't yet have the connection among the Coast Guard and the system. But ideally, this is one tool that I can mention that is functional at the moment in Italy at the national level. Of course, it is difficult if we only speak about protection. We have several other tools, digital tools for monitoring activities. For instance, we are developing a protocol with ISPRA, the National Institute for Monitoring Activities in the Sea, to use the drone for the monitoring of coastline to identify the presence of Cystozeira and the analysis of Cystozeira status. We are finalizing in our reforest project, the life project I mentioned in my presentation, and it will be finalized and presented to the marine protected areas in Italy, I think on the spring of 2026. And if you are interested, we can share with you our preliminary results on this tool.
Yeah, that could be very nice. That could be very nice. There is a company here. You were talking about AIS and satellite sensors to detect, for example, I guess fishing intruders, right?
Yes.
In MPAs. Now, if there is like usually in our MPA, we have like many clouds. So first of all, with fishing boats, many of them don't have any AIS, and if there's clouds, like the satellite sensors cannot really see anything below the clouds. So there is a company in Spain. I don't know if this is used in any other MPA. It's something I'm investigating right now, which is kind of the same idea, but with cameras and AI, which you can see the coast, they say, and you can detect a boat, and it's gonna understand what's seen. That's the AI purpose,
Yeah,
right?
I think that the best is a combination of the different tools, of course. So the cameras, the local cameras to register, of course, the smallest one, and then satellite also to understand, because you have someone. Of course, AI can help us in automate the work. But we have also to keep in mind that you have to verify with the Coast Guard that they can go immediately. Otherwise, in Italy, you cannot manage the presence of fishermen inside after they are inside.
Thank you.
You
Thank
mean
you so much.
okay? Okay, thank you. I'm not gonna steal any more time. Thank you so
But
much.
it's a very important question, and in terms of funding and opportunity, I will say a few words, but I would like Sylvain or Renaud to complete maybe the comments from Sol and to talk about what they are doing in their MPA. Sylvain, do you want to comment?
Yes. Well, I think we can have a new tools like a satellite, drone. Okay, it's important for monitoring. It's a new tools for have a good precision for know how the restoration to evolve. But I think the important tools it's legislation. Okay, it's the first tools for me before drone or satellite, because if you restore. If we restore, it's mean we are also destroying. Okay, and how can you control the destroy? It's a legislation. It's a new control activity. It's a mean for control and regulate the activity in your MPA or out MPA. But for me, it's important tools.
Indeed, it's a critical.
Yes, I do. Yeah, for sure, I do agree with what Steven said, for sure, because in fact, we have tools in our MPA. For example, we have tools, and we can mention easily what are the problems inside the MPA. For example, we can control trawlers, for example. But if you don't have any control after having seen what they say, what they do, it will not be able to. We are not able to go ahead. So that means that we need also to. It's a long line. It's not. It's coming from the technology, because, for example, in our MPA we have a camera, we have a radar connected together. We can see everything inside the MPA easily. But once we know that, we have to go and control if we can, because sometimes in Natura 2000 sites in France, you don't have any control. You cannot control, in fact. So you need to go to all the maritime authorities. So it's not so easy everywhere, because it's a long line, a long coast in our region. So as Sylvain said, it is very important to go until to control the restoration. We have to go on all the process until the control and the legislation for sure.
Thank you very much, Renaud. I see two questions from Emna and Lydia. The first, I will specify in terms of funding opportunity, because we all know how expensive can be restoration activities. So you have a different level of funding opportunity at the national level, but as well at the European level. At the European level, according to the very rough assessment done by the European institution, the European Commission has planned, but is not yet committed nor validated, so take it in a very precautionary way, has planned to dedicate 16 billion by 2030. It's a first figure. The European Commission was supposed actually to submit end of this summer a budget to support the implementation of the nature restoration regulation. But as you understand, with a very heavy geopolitical situation, this has been postponed. But be aware that the European Commission has already planned to provide dedicated funding in order to support the implementation of this nature restoration regulation. In addition, the existing funding, such as the LIFE that was mentioned by Sol, Horizon, as well as the Biodiversa, are providing support. I put in the chat actually a link to the ongoing call of the Biodiversa Plus that is called BioDeep Connect, and it's targeting to support research, development of protocols, methodology, tools in a very practical way in terms of restoration of ecosystem functioning. So have a look to the link. It's a joint call. It means that it's funded both by the European Commission and the National Research Agency. So have a look to the website and contact your national agency that is contributing to this call so that you can see what are the conditions of the call. But it's a very interesting source of funding to fund actually applied research. So please do not hesitate. We do hope to have more information later this year, by the end of the year, regarding the budget that the European Commission will allocate to support the implementation of the nature restoration regulation. So I close the financial bracket, but it's a very important one. Regarding the question from Emna asked a question about, indeed, this nature restoration regulation is compulsory for European member states. What about the non-EU member states who are sharing actually the same issue, the same concern, and the main challenge in terms of implementing restoration activities? Again, I believe, and this is why we decided as well to develop a special note to explain this regulation, and to have this webinar, and to deploy later in November a dedicated restoration workshop. It's not because this law, this regulation is compulsory only for EU member states that is not valuable nor interesting for non-EU member states. Only for the sake of supporting countries to develop a framework, to develop a national restoration plan. It can be used, it can inspire the non-EU member states. I come back to the question of the funding. Again, European fundings supporting regional cooperation will definitely support restoration activities. I think it will be part of the package planned by the European Commission in order to support the Ocean Pact, but as well the European Nature Restoration Regulation. So as soon as MedPAN will track information and funding opportunity, we will share, because we know that this is a key issue for all. I hope I addressed your question, Emna. In addition to institutional funding, there are as well other funding, such as a small project from MedPAN, the activities as well funded by the MedFund. So stay tuned when it comes to call for proposal. It can be as well a good way to support restoration activities.
Great, thanks, Carole.
Thank you, Emna. Regarding Lydia, Lydia, do you want to open your mic and to ask directly your question?
Hello, thank
Yes.
you, Carole. Thank you. Thank you again from such an insightful presentations. Thank you very much. So I will ask two questions, actually. One is for you, Carole, because you presented in the beginning all about the nature restoration regulation, and I didn't quite, I'm not understanding this. Among the milestones and the targets and things like that, we always refer to restoring, let's say, 30% of degraded or non-existent marine habitats. My question is, non-existent? I don't catch that. I mean, is recolonization in areas that are, what do you mean? Thank you.
Indeed, when we all saw the draft and the final version, we were all, questioning as well, what does it mean? Actually, in the mind of the European Commission, it's beyond the degraded status is the disappeared species or ecosystem, those who are no more existing. So this is why they are called non-existent. I understand it's a bit awkward, but the point was actually to actually try to restore that is no longer existing. If again, and we should be all aware of this very important condition, if the ecological condition allow such a very active restoration. This is what is referred to non-existent. But I understand your question, Lydia. I
Okay.
had the same surprise at the beginning.
Yeah, thank you, Carol. And the second one is for our friends from Italy. Very impressive, really, all the, the works and everything. And I would like to ask something more. Maybe I didn't catch it, I don't know, about the Life PINA project. I heard about the 100 translocated individuals, for instance, but I didn't catch about the success level. I mean, the percentage of the success. You can translocate, of course, the individuals. What about
Yes,
yes, you understand.
the mean of survival are more than 6 or 7 months for each individual. So we understood that the problem is not transplantation as techniques. The problem is that currently the multipathogenic issue that arises for Pinna nobilis is most probably still present in different flavor, let me say, C. So even if the condition of the C seems to be good, because before transplanting, every time we do some molecular analysis on C sentinel, like mussels or oyster or what else that collect the pathogens, even if the C seems to be free, at the end, after 7-8 months, they die in some way, and we find them generally with Aplosporidium inside. This is our evidence of our works. Even if the situation seems to be dramatic, we have still 3 individuals living transplanted in Miramare since 2 years, and so we are confident that some resistance of the individuals can be the real difference for resistance and for survival, of course.
Okay, that's logical. What about the captivity reproduction? I mean, what plans do you have? Again, to use them
to
for
cooperate with colleagues coming from Spain and Greece, in particular Stelio Katsanevagis from Greece and
Stelios,
Jose Rafa,
yes.
Stelios, yes, and Jose Rafa from Spain, who are in charge for the new Life Pinna, and we have a good relationship with them, and we developed a common protocol to try next year. And so we will try together with the aquarium from Pula in Croatia, who made the captivity reproduction for them for the Life Pinarca project. And we work with the University of Genova and with our laboratory in Trieste to conduct a trial with 3 different laboratories with a common shared protocol and some slight difference in the techniques in order to verify which will be successful. But the problem is not the reproduction. The problem is not reproduction, is the most probably the food and predation of the larvae, because we achieved the size of the big size of the larvae. The problem is that they didn't grow more than 150 microns, probably because there was a problem with predation, and probably because the diet was not good enough for that size.
Okay, but if you have you tried to keep them in an aquarium, for instance, and see if there are different intrinsic factors that are, leading to this development of the inflammation and everything? Yes.
Oh yeah, of the pathogen. Yeah, of course. But we, of course, we try to maintain the condition as good as we can, and we have success in rearing more than 1 year the individuals in the tank without any problem with pathogens. Most probably the pathogens is inside each pinna we collect, but sometimes it didn't express the pathogenic behavior. So if the conditions like temperature or something else rise, of course, the pathogens can grow and can express itself.
Thank you very much, Saul. Thank you.
More than welcome.
Thank you so much. I see Renaud raise his hand,
Yeah,
and then I will answer
Mhm.
to Lilita, and then we will close, unfortunately, the Q&A session because we are very close to the end of the meeting. Renaud, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just to add about the Pinna nobilis, but there is another live project in Pinna Care, which is led by the Institut Oceanographique of Les Ambiers, and with the University of Toulon, and the University also and other institutions of Spain, and we are connected with that because, as you may know, there is in Tour Lagoon, Sylvain Blouet told us before that there was interesting algae there, but also a big population of Pinna nobilis. I've never seen that in my life because I went to many places in the Mediterranean, for example, in Slovenia some years ago, and there were plenty. It's about, in Tour Lagoon, it's about 100,000 Pinna nobilis inside. And so there was known Pinna nobilis some 20, 30 years ago. You have to know that. So that means that there are many projects on Pinna nobilis, and that's good because I think, Saul, also that we will find a solution to find again this beautiful species in the Mediterranean.
We will find out together, most probably, because the relationship among the different problems is very good. Life Care is, Pinna Care is the follow-up of the Pinarca project from Jose. We know very well each
Yeah, for Jose, of course, yeah. Thank you, Saul. So see you.
Thank you. We can see again all the point to exchange between MPA managers and stakeholders on these issues in order to keep on learning and to be more successful. I will address now the question from Lilita, who is working for Planet Mer. She put a question in the chat. It's related to the link between the national level and the MPA level. Yes, definitely, as it was mentioned before, the targets are set for the member states, but they won't, at the governmental level, won't achieve those targets alone, and they will definitely rely on MPA managers, but not only, because as I specified at the very beginning, this natural restoration regulation is implementable not only within protected area, not only within MPAs, but as well beyond. So when it comes to the MPA managers, they will have to support, I would say, the national effort. And this is why, again, it's very important for the MPA managers and stakeholders to take part to the development of the national restoration plan. Because when it comes to setting the targets, when it comes to identify the habitats, the species, the areas where each member states will work, you should have your say. In addition, when it comes to reporting on the successfulness or not of the member states, each member state will actually specify within its national plan how it will implement the monitoring and thus the reporting. So they will specify how they will collect data from the field and definitely from the MPAs and the MPA managers they will work with in order to implement the national restoration plan. So the articulation and the specification will be actually indicated into the national restoration plan. I hope it addressed your question, Lilita.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. So I guess it's now time to close the webinar. I hope it was helpful. Again, please feel free to visit our website. You have already quite some material. You have the user-friendly note explaining in a very practical way this nature restoration regulation. You have as well facts, frequent asked question, where we actually provide more details about what this nature restoration regulation entails for. And we will add actually more material. We will deploy more activities, and this leads me to give the floor to my dear colleague, Emily. We will actually explain what will be our next training workshop that will be dedicated on ecological restoration. Emily, the floor is yours.
Yes, Noé, can you switch to the other slide, please? Actually, I'll switch to French to balance a bit the webinar.
Right. So please, next slide. Wonderful. Fantastic. Right. So we are going to start a new training about ecological restoration, as Carol did. So beginning of summer, we launched a call for interest. We got 130 requests and we selected, say, 20 participants, and we're going to have, well, it's going to be a hybrid training, and it has been designed for Mediterranean MPA managers. So we have 4 virtual sessions and 4 days of training in Spain in person in Cabo de Gata. So we're going to work theoretically and practically. So we're going to have 4 virtual sessions, 2 hours each. They will start in October. We're going to cover the foundations of restoration, the reason why, the structure of this policy, the main causes, pollution, the main affected areas like fisheries. We're going to see, a broad outline of this sector. And then we're going to see different actions, the effectiveness of the actions. We're going to define a module for strategic planning for restoration purposes. And so there is also going to be a little bit of homework resulting from the webinars. And then we will gather in the Natural Park of Cabo de Gata in Spain for the in-person training. And we're going to be much more practical. We're going to discuss local governance. We're also going to meet the team of Cabo de Gata, who is going to share their experience when it comes to restoration techniques and methods. So like transplantation and other devices. We're going to discover the local protocol and have a sort of field visit, and then we will end up on how to write a restoration plan. And so we're also going to develop soon a guide on this after this training. So we got many requests to participate, and then we will try to make the contents available. So all the videos of the webinars as well as the presentations will be made available on our website after the end of the training. So do not hesitate to subscribe to our newsletter to be always updated on the availability of these materials. And also you can scan the QR code to enroll to our newsletter. So thank you very much for your participation. And I don't know if Renaud desires to end. Yes, I will end up on French, considering that we have translators. So thank you very much. And so this topic is very much demanded and requested. And I say it again, and so there are going to be very targeted financing. And so it's certainly a topical issue, but not the only one. So thank you all. I'd like to thank the MedPAN team for preparing this webinar. And thank you in advance for this upcoming training. And certainly, considering the high number of requests, maybe we're going to have another session in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.